What's up, my Koopa Troop? It's Koops!
And Enob.
Welcome back to another episode of Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. We are playing some turf takeover against some crazy bots and seeing how this goes. But really what we wanted to do in this episode was talk over our final thoughts and feelings on Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, kind of compare and contrast to Garden Warfare 1 and 2, which came before it, and maybe talk about some of the pros and cons that we had with this game. Yeah, you know, we've now kind of seen the whole game. We've played all of the campaign mission modes against computers. We've played a lot of the PvP online. We've played not only the PS4 version, but the Nintendo Switch version of this game.
That's right.
As well. So, you know, overall, what have you thought of this game, I guess?
Well, I do have to say, again, it does look really great. Sounds good, too. Music, once again, is enjoyable to listen to. And,
yeah.
And, like, the characters themselves also have a lot of personality in all the different animations and moves, taunts, attacks, all the great stuff. Sure, it does look a little bit different from the previous Garden Warfare games, but I don't think it's necessarily for the worse. I'd say, you know, in some cases some things look better, some look worse, but overall it's still pretty good.
Get me out of here! Get me out of here! Oh, yeah, I would say I agree. I think that maybe the Garden Warfare's look slightly better. There's definitely a different art style to the game that takes a little bit of time getting used to.
Perhaps maybe to also help maybe with like online play and stuff. There's not as much detail in some of the character models as before. So this again probably done to like help facilitate the new sort of online co-op experience or competitive experience they're going for with this game.
That's true. I kind of forgot about that. They really actually did want to push a competitive.
Yeah, a lot more sort of online matchmaking sort of play going on. It kind of started with the Garden Warfare 2 with the backyard battleground, but with this one, Giddy Park, there's a whole lot more like going on in terms of like they want you to meet up with your friends, have a little lobby of a couple players, and just hang out, beat each other up in Giddy Park with some other players in that just the mode. And if you don't want to just do that, you can always jump into an actual PvP match or whatever and do this just a standard sort of Garden Warfare stuff. Or if you didn't want to do any intense sort of PvP matches, you get to hang out with a couple other people in a party and do a bunch of the PvE free roam areas, which they're greatly expanded on from Garden Warfare 2.
Yeah.
Again, Garden Warfare 1 didn't have like any of this stuff, but it was like the groundwork. It laid the groundwork for all this gameplay, this gameplay style, really.
Yeah, I gotta say, because Garden Warfare 1 made the humongous change from a turret defense game to a third-person shooter, which is a crazy, crazy change overall. Garden Warfare 2 then expanded on that, adding a lot of customization and variations on the character classes. Battle for Neighborville was the third in the series, but they didn't want to call it Garden Warfare 3 for, I wish I was a fly on the wall. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, it's very strange if you think about it, because it really is just the Garden Warfare 3,
It's Garden Warfare 3.
But they went with a different name.
Went with a different name,
there clearly was a reason why, and perhaps that reason why is, again, because of this focus more on this sort of group play, or, always online sort of thing, but also, actually probably the biggest change between this and Garden Warfare 2 is the removal of character variants.
Yeah.
A very controversial move.
That I would say probably it's been a detriment. Yeah, I would say that too. So in Garden Warfare 2, for those of you that didn't play, they had a couple less characters overall, but every single character had 6 to 8 or something like that variations.
Yeah.
And it would be like, let's take for example the foot soldier. He'd have variations where they'd all shoot guns, but they'd all play a little differently. Maybe they're gonna be unlimited fire but less damage, or more of a cannon on his arm instead of firing. It was all slightly different. A lot of them maybe overlapped a little bit, but ultimately it was up to the player to kind of choose their play style. A better example maybe would be the scientist, which the standard class had. You could do a long range shot,
or it worked up fairly well up close too,
or okay up close.
Yeah.
But then there was variations that only did tons of damage at long range, essentially a sniper, or classes that actually did only short range. They could not fire long range, but they did crazy shotgun damage.
They melted.
And that was a lot of fun because as a player, you could pick and choose how you wanted to play the scientist. For example, I loved the chemist, which was a close range. Hey, Super Range, you want to help me here, buddy? Which was a close range fighter that could only shoot within like very, very short to him. So you dash in, blast, and then dash out. And that was always a lot of fun. They removed all those variations in this game and then clearly felt like it was a mistake because their point system they added in, which was new to this game.
Yeah. Then they added actually back in the legendary upgrades, which weren't there in the game when it first launched.
But they actually act just like a variation.
Yeah.
I would say overall on this game, I had fun with it, but there have been a lot of glitches and issues that have actively kicked us out and been a problem. We've seen a bunch of them in our playthrough, even not on our playthrough. We've had so many times it's kicked us off out of the game, blue screened us, back to the PlayStation menu, a lot of different issues here. So I don't want to sound overly negative, but yeah, the game I'd say, oh, that actually got me. The game's been a lot of fun. I'm just going to go ahead and run in here.
Don't get me.
The game has been fun. We've enjoyed it. I think it could have been polished a whole lot more and felt even better. And I definitely, like a lot of people, am not happy it pulled away from the Garden Warfare 2. I think just another version of Garden Warfare 2 with more maps, more upgrades would have been the better play. You know, but that is someone speaking without any kind of experience in making or developing games. I don't know how hard it is or how well the game sold, but I feel like Garden Warfare did pretty well overall as a game. Would like to see them do more of that, but Battle for Neighborville has been a pretty decent experience. Just could have been better. I think is how I'd wrap it up. And we totally dominated the bots. I had a lot of fun to blast them back into their spot there. But overall, a good victory for the zombies. I like the addition of the new characters, except for maybe the swarm at the very end. I think
and those were added in almost at the very end, when like before their last update. That's also another thing with this game is it really had a struggling sort of development cycle too. Well, and also lifespan as well. Like throughout it, it just had the problems with characters being imbalanced. So then the next patch would maybe adjust some things, but a lot of times not. And then if they did, they overcorrected it or not enough. And, you know, a lot of people I know, like on online forums, were getting frustrated with it and think updates weren't necessarily coming out as quick enough as you would think for an online multiplayer game such as this, especially when they have such a focus on
online multiplayer.
Right.
that was their main focus, and it felt like they didn't update it as much as we thought they could have or should have.
And speaking of sort of the updates and stuff, like updates would also not, bring character challenge balances and stuff like that, but also they would be updating things to the shop, like more so than character upgrades and stuff. So, players felt betrayed. Like, come on, we want, better gameplay first and foremost over microtransactions.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about the microtransactions because it was really bad in this game. They were really bad. Things are way overpriced. And eventually with the Switch release, they fixed that. I would say the Switch release is fixed and is actually really good. But even still for the other versions, it's not fixed.
No.
And so you get crazy high prices. For example, if I look at add-ons over here, it's going to cost $5 for 500 rainbow stars. And you can see right here, this is a $6 costume. And there's just not a lot of benefit for a $6 costume.
Right.
You don't feel it. It doesn't feel like that. And I think what happens is everyone compares it to Garden Warfare 2, which had tons of customization.
Perhaps maybe too many.
Too many. They got carried away with their gold, bronze, diamond, sapphire color schemes. That was terrible. But they had a lot of customizations. In this game, you feel like they only care about you if you put in a lot of money to get outfits that people didn't really care about seeing online. So that was kind of a mistake. They fixed it by the Switch version, but which only released recently, so that was a little too late.
After they had already come out and said, we're not working on this game anymore. There's no more future updates.
They gave up on this game.
Just after a year.
Just after a year, which feels bad, because if you're trying to make this into a big game, it feels like they dumped a game that no one exactly asked for in this state, and then were very shocked when it didn't work, and then felt like they just gave up on it. which is frustrating because I think there is a fan base that wants to play Garden Warfare. I know me personally wants to play Garden Warfare, but this game is not exactly Garden Warfare, so it wasn't exactly the update I was looking for. My big concern for the Plants vs. Zombies franchise is this might have been a flop, and if this was a flop and PvZ3 was a flop,
That was definitely a flop.
the next mobile game was a flop, you don't really know where the franchise is heading or if it's heading anywhere. Hopefully it is. Still love playing the games. So we hope to see more out of the...
Yeah, and to be fair for the development cycle, or at least also the update cycle for this game, like about halfway through or so of this game's life, well, since it started, I should say, COVID happened.
Yep.
So everything had to change. No one kind of knew how to kind of keep the game working, and stuff like that. So to be fair, a lot of updates and stuff like that around that time. Ooh, nice, legendary. Couldn't really happen quickly because everyone was stuck at home and trying to be stay safe from the pandemic going on. But even before then, and since then, when people kind of figured out how to work from home and such, updates weren't really coming out all that quick and weren't the best. Again, more focus was just on the microtransaction stuff, it felt like, than the actual gameplay. A lot of modes like the battle arena, that was actually added in later.
Yep.
And that never worked out too well. In fact, it became removed from the permanent rotation.
Yeah, the permanent games here.
Yeah, it's not even, and it's only comes a random event now.
And even
in fact, in the Switch version, in fact, I think you only do Turf Takeover and Team Vanquish. There's not even Garden Graveyard option on the Switch version.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and we'd even say even in the Battle Ops...
Or no, actually, sorry. Team Vanquish is no longer, I think, an option. Or something like that. There's one...
No way. Team Vanquish has to be an option.
Yeah, it's weird. So things kind of... Instead of adding things towards the end of this game, things were being removed in order to kind of fix them, but they were never then put back in. And then you get a character like the Swarm classes, the TV Head, and the Wildflower, which were just kind of thrown in last minute to help maybe appease the fact that things were being taken away and everything was going out great.
Well, and speaking of that...
has its own problems.
Yeah, speaking on that, I mean, you could see that they actually had intended we had the Wizard added in, and that was never... They never ended up adding another character for the Plants, which they had planned to promise to do that.
And people have actually data mined the game and found that there might have been like some sort of ice cabbage plants, to be like the other plants, and actually there's like a model made already and some moves even, but just never finalized it. So yeah, the zombies in the end have one more character on their team,
and that feels really weird. So ultimately the game feels like it was released, they had big plans for it, the plans didn't really work out, the fan base wasn't happy, and they ended up just kind of dropping development and leaving this game as it is right now.
Yeah, and the other thing about like those microtransactions and the purchases and stuff like that, in Garden Warfare 2 and 1, if I remember correctly, you would buy character,
card packs.
Card packs, sticker packs, whatever.
Yep.
And that would give you a bunch of different things. Now, not necessarily you would want all that stuff in there, but it would be like 7-9 items at a time.
It felt really good. Plus, they could guarantee a rare or super rare. They had guarantees on it, so it felt good. You say, hey, I'd spend 70,000 coins. I'm going to get 7 cards, and the last one is a guaranteed super rare.
But here in this game, there's no guarantee like that. You have Mr. Robotron 9000 here. You buy Castle for 30,000 coins, which is expensive.
You get one
Although in the
thing.
Switch version it's 15,000. But you get one thing at a time. You don't know what's going to be. And it also just feels kind of lame having to buy one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Like, it felt so... Like, it feels better, I should say, to buy one pack and get a bunch of items. And, yeah, they're not always going to be great, but at least you get, like, a couple cosmetics and some zombies, plants, or whatever, maybe even a legendary thing.
And the other nice thing I was going to say on that, too, is they allowed you to purchase per character. So you could purchase an all-star pack and get all-star related stuff. So you could kind of pick how to customize your own character. In this one, it's all random. And we still have characters to this date that have almost no cosmetics, and there's nothing we can really do about that. We just don't get lucky in the Mr. Rewardotron.
Yeah.
So our character is like kind of default model, and then on that, there's just not a lot of cosmetics overall in our game, or if there are a lot of cosmetics, we're still far away from getting them all just because it costs too much. We've spent almost every single coin on cosmetics.
Yeah.
We haven't really leveled up or spent them anywhere else, and we still don't have all that many, I'd say.
Yeah, still have pieces for like some characters, like any single pieces or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't want to sound like overly negative, but I think the feel for this game is kind of a negative ultimately experience. I like these areas. The PvE areas were fun.
It's true. Really.
Town Center was really fun. The other ones were a little more of a gamble. I think they were still okay. I think what hurt is that Town Center allows both plants and zombies to collect the same currency. The other areas only allow you to play as one zombies or as plants, and that means you have less reason to go back and replay them. For example, if I could go back to the desert, Wild West area as a zombies, I think that'd be a lot of fun and maybe have more reason to play it. But other areas don't allow you to start skirmishes as easy, so it's not as good for grinding. So we end up going to Town Center almost every single time for any real reason to play. Or PvP is much better if you're trying to earn rewards on the other versions that are not the Switch.
Yeah.
But PvP has kind of died in this game, so there's only certain modes that have people at certain times. And you're not always guaranteed to get good matches or good connections, or we've had a lot of issues with that too. It's a little bit different for us because we've been doing split screen, but even when we've played solo, it's not always perfect. On the positive, though, this does allow split screen, which the Switch does not. The
That's
PlayStation
true.
version.
Yeah, actually, well, and it's also commendable that the game still allows for couch co-op.
Split screen,
Right.
and to go online and play co-op split screen. So that's been pretty fun.
And, well, here's the other thing that might have mixed feelings on is the prize maps. This is something none of the other Garden Warfare games have, and it's to kind of help encourage you to keep playing the game.
Yep.
And it seems good.
Yeah, I'd say it seems good. It feels good. You earn prize maps from playing the game. If you look over here at my menu, you can see at the bottom prize bulb meter. As you get experience, you get 1 prize bulb. If you complete daily challenges, you get 2 for each daily challenge you complete. So 4 a day.
And then there's also the character challenges, which happen or you can get a new character challenge
once a week
to complete. Yeah, once a week.
And that'll give you a bunch. It'll give you 10 for the initial ones and another 10. So I think 20 total.
I think 15. I think for each character.
15. Okay.
That you complete fully. And then you use them to unlock all these different items for the prize map, which in other versions aside from the Switch, every month you can get to a new prize map. That is kind of obnoxious, especially when we've had this happen to both of us. Actually, when you run to the limit.
Once you complete it, you see at the top there it says 1 out of 50. So he's got 1 prize bulb out of 50. Obviously, as we earn prize bulbs, we spend them on this prize map, eventually unlocking everything. What'll happen is you will then have nothing to spend prize bulbs on, and if you keep playing the game, you will get to 50 out of 50, and it's happened to both of us, and you feel almost zero desire to play because it actually goes straight to waste.
Yeah.
Your experience does not earn more prize bulbs.
It's a shame.
And it's such a strange decision because if you are a person who is playing the game, I don't know why they'd ever want to limit you from playing more. I don't see any problem with someone having 100 prize bulbs if they've played that much and deserve it. They can just spend it all on the next map. But for this game, we have to wait for the next month to roll over to earn the next prize map. This is not a problem in the Switch version, which allows you to pick any prize map at any time.
As well as hold up to 999 prize bulbs, but when you have the option to pick any prize map, which is the only
reason to spend the prize bulbs.
bulb.
You will
Actually,
never.
only, place you can spend
you don't
prize
even
bulbs.
need that 999.
Yeah.
It's nice though.
So you always be spending prize bulbs pretty much until you fill out every prize map, which by that point you've put in tens at least of hours into this game.
So
hundreds probably.
That's not a problem
in that version, but in the other versions though, they never bother to fix it. Which I'd say fix it because being limited to the 50, it really does make you not want to play the game. So prize map I think is a good idea. It encourages you to play the game and do certain challenges, which they've had in the past. Garden Warfare 1 had the kind of character-specific ones, which were kind of obnoxious. Some of them could be fun, but some of them were also pretty awful. But Garden Warfare 2 had the bulletin board where you picked up random missions to do.
Those were they were hit or miss.
Yeah, hit or miss. But those would give you coins or
the best
stars
part about,
every so often.
I was gonna say, the best part about challenges though is that you could always just go PvE and beat bots to do them, and that was probably the quickest way. This game still works the same way. A big negative for me though is while these other areas are more fun, I think, than maybe Garden Warfare 2, Town Center and stuff. I have to pick a challenge, run over there, load into it, and then go to that area. Garden Warfare 2 excelled where you pick a challenge, literally hop out of your base, and you're into the fight. Now, this does have the same idea, but this actually still takes longer to do than it did in Garden Warfare 2. Plus, in that game, you could run into the enemy's base, which would immediately start a giant fight.
Right.
So, and then you could get your challenges done really quickly because there'd be so many enemies to shoot. And that, for me, was a lot of fun. Wasted a lot of time just running in the middle and playing that. And that's a great way of, like, just, if you don't really want to play a mode, just kind of picking up the game and playing for a little bit. I'd say this middle area here, if you're not playing against other humans, is kind of a letdown. There's just a lot of little random bots running around that do too much damage.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're better off just playing a PvE or going over here to another area. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed playing this game. I enjoyed the gunfire. I enjoyed a lot of the abilities, but I'd say overall it was a disappointment to me. And I leave this game kind of wishing it was more similar to the Garden Warfare style of games than a separate one. I still think they could have easily called this game Garden Warfare 3 and call it Battle for Neighborville, which I don't know if they
might have then provided some more hype and stuff or whatever. Oh, that took a while.
Earned a trophy for
playing the piano, actually for playing the PVZ theme on that keyboard back there in the plant space.
Oh, I didn't know that was even a thing. That's cool. So, yeah, it's hard because I really wanted this game to be better than it really ended up being, and there's a lot of effort and energy put into this. It just feels a little bit misplaced here and there, and if they had kind of taken on some of the successes they had from the first two games, I think this one would have been better. I'm not really sure what they were hoping to accomplish with all the different things. Like you said, maybe more PvP, but then they didn't support it enough for it to be worthwhile. So that kind of wraps up my thoughts and feelings. I'd like to hear what everyone else thought about this game. If it was a positive experience for them, if it was kind of a negative, if you picked up and played and dropped it. We got the Switch version and tried it out, and the Switch version struggles a little bit to play the game.
Yeah.
The biggest problem for us is that we can't play co-op, which is why we dropped it. But if we only played that game, I think we would actually enjoy this experience a lot more, because this has been all improved so vastly that even to this day, I still debate whether playing the PS4 version, just because the Switch version is so much improved with costumes, and it's the way the game really should have released, honestly, and not dumped onto the Switch for the last-ditch cash grab, which is what it felt like. But I'm glad they fixed up some of the issues that needed to be fixed there.
What do you think of some of the newer characters?
So, taking a look at them...
we've talked a bit about the Swarm, and actually one thing also we don't like a lot about the Swarm character class is their drones. It's really obnoxious.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about them during our gameplay and stuff, but I think that ability should have never been added to the game at all.
Yeah, just a little too rushed when adding those characters in. Again, like just like the last sort of minute, try to save the game sort of thing.
Well, I think both their abilities should not have been added in. Their ability to pick a respawn point and their ability to run a bomb around the map. You have no reaction time to that bomb, so it's not fun.
No, what do you, like so classic zombies and plants brought back. So Garden Warfare 1 and 2, I guess. Zombies and plants brought back in. How do you feel they play compared to their older selves?
I haven't played those in a while, so it's a little bit hard for me to say that, like, Pea Shooter feels very, very similar. The Chomper changed quite a bit from where you used to want to sneak behind enemies and eat them immediately from behind or garble them up. I feel like now I actually generally run and chomp at enemies as opposed to burrowing underground. I only burrow to sneak up on someone who's not really paying attention. When before your strategy was kind of to sneak and eat people from behind. So I think they wanted to get rid of some of that, which is probably very frustrating.
Yeah, I think that's probably for the better.
I'd say, because a lot of your strategy was just sneaking or stunning and then getting from behind and eating them in one bite.
Which, again, kind of surprises me that they left that drone as it is for this class, because that's essentially what the burrow did in the previous games.
Yes,
but regardless.
But worse, yeah.
Yeah.
Colonel Corn, he's been a lot of fun. That's been one of my favorite characters to play as.
Yeah, and so, like, with these characters, the ability points, that's also the big thing, too, has changed. And we're also so yeah, with the characters and stuff, the old characters coming back in, those are defaults. There's no variations at all, which is the downside.
Yeah.
They tried correcting that somewhat with the legendary upgrades.
Yeah, like the Bramian Basher versus not having that during the standard. But the problem with the point system and doing that is it costs 5 points to become a slightly different variation on your class. I say slight, but not really. He plays totally different as a Bramian Basher than he does as the standard. But now you only have 2 points left over to put for something random, generally like a level up or some other 2-point thing. So you don't get the benefit of the point system. You spend all your points on changing them slightly. Same with the scientist turning into the steam blaster. That now plays a little bit like some of the older classes.
Yeah.
But you don't get any benefit of reviving or other stuff like that. So I think that variations kind of were a miss, and this was their way of trying to add them back in.
But it didn't quite work.
But it didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the classic characters come back in, there are defaults, and some things were changed. I'd say maybe overall their moves and stuff for the better, like compared to their defaults from before. But when trying to add in like the variations again with just the abilities, it's kind of a little bit of a miss because it does limit you pretty much to just that one move and maybe something that slightly buff it up. What about the new characters? Think of some of these guys: 80s Action Hero, Electric Slide, and Space Cadet, and Wizard as well.
I like
the zombie team.
I really like the 80s Action Hero. I think that is a solid addition to the gameplay, which feels a little bit different.
And I think they had a lot of fun as well making them because PvZ, at least the developers working on it now, really seem to like their 80s.
Yeah.
They have a lot of references throughout the games to the like 80s movies and pop culture and stuff like that. And so, of course, making a zombie that's just like embodiment of 80s, they probably had a lot of fun with that. And it is a lot of fun to play.
I think the 80s Action Hero is a pretty solid choice. They didn't go with a gun and with a bow and arrow. It was interesting with the charge. I think he probably didn't need that long, big damage snipe, but because he actually takes over similar to some of the sniper classes because of that power. But I think overall he's a really good addition to the character. I like Electric Slide as well, as I've played more of her. I think she's been a lot of fun too. I can see a lot of the strategy with throwing plants away and grouping them together and shooting at all of them. So she's been pretty solid. I like her a lot too. And then after
Space Cadet along with Acorn and Oak class. Essentially the whole weak character, but then when they form together, they create something really powerful.
Yeah,
That's
I'd say the vision didn't work out as well. I think what happened is you transform and they wanted other characters to join with you, and that does make you a lot stronger, but I just don't see it happen very, very often, almost ever. No one really joins together to make these things work out. And so you're left with a transformation that does make you personally stronger. And so you end up doing that just for your own benefit. I think like Acorn to Oak, you play as the Oak a lot of times with never an Acorn on top of you. You're just an Oak. It feels like a different character than the Acorn. It's kind of the Imp and Mech style of play a little bit, but you could transform a lot quicker. I like the idea. I don't think it necessarily worked out with the combination thing. I think they could have probably not done the combination thing, and it would have been fine as well.
And then they maybe just buffed the standard zombie a little bit, and Acorn a little bit, to kind of compensate for that, because they're based around that ability of forming up together.
Yeah, forming up together.
And it ties back again to Battle for Neighborville's goal of trying to get multiple people playing together, like online together or against each other, and really, again, just. But I never really kind of saw that in their promotions and stuff. Again, it's just so weird that they didn't call us Garden Warfare 3. Because, like, all the promotion, Battle of Neighborville, it doesn't really, at least when you just see the title, it doesn't scream Garden Warfare because it doesn't say that. But, when you see the gameplay, oh, of course, it's Garden Warfare 3, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I really think that, when promoting this, they really should have pushed for the whole work together, fight against each other sort of aspect. Because even some classes, like the Acorn and Oak here, and Space Cadet and the Space Station, that stuff is perfect for teaming up, lobbying up together, and working together and that sort of stuff.
It's not that the name defined the game, but it feels like a big misstep. Plus, I don't really know what subtext Battle for Neighborville goes for. I know that's kind of like...
Yeah.
That feels like a standalone story. Single-player story campaign. Battle for Neighborville, not your game that's focused on multiplayer.
And again, I think that's also another reason why they did it. They did want to kind of make it slightly different from Garden Warfare, and they did. They removed all the variations, more focus on the PvE sort of stuff with the free roam areas, and also probably more focus on lobbying up together. But it did have a lot of stumbling in the beginning, and then they didn't quite fix it all up over time until eventually just had to stop the project altogether.
What do you think of the plants and the new ones added into the game?
It's nice to have a character that's the stealth class. I like that nightcap.
I think
That's
the nightcap is a
pretty
good
fun.
add-on.
It's good that there's a good balance between like how weak she is, but she can do a lot of things to escape or to cover herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's
moves.
very strong. She's really strong when she fights, but yeah, of course they die pretty quickly.
And then you have this Snapdragon, who is essentially Flame Chomper.
It's the exact same as Flame Chomper,
but with a little bit more mobility, unless you have Fast Burrow or something on Fire Chomper. But regardless, it's Fire Chomper, maybe 2.0 even, because
I'd say Snapdragon is really powerful.
Yeah,
you melt zombies up close. Your biggest weakness is probably slightly bulkier enemies. But you have a lot of ways. You can even do long-range snipes and stuff. Not very well, though. Yeah, I'd say Snapdragon is just Flame Chomper. It's been one of my favorite characters to play as. I like the flame abilities. I like kind of causing mayhem. I like the firewall. But once again, because of some of the glitches...
Oh, yeah, some of that stuff doesn't appear.
Snapdragon, the flame wall doesn't appear, or your flying doesn't work exactly as expected.
Yeah, we've encountered numerous glitches.
So I think that actually the character hurts because of that, where you expect something to happen and it doesn't work out. Let's see, what else? And then it was Acorn Oak, right?
Yeah,
that's
the other new one you talked about it. Acorn's fairly little health pool, but is pretty mobile. Which
a lot of dashing. Very hard to shoot, honestly.
Yeah.
Very annoying to shoot.
Yeah, kind of like the Imp when it first was around in Garden Warfare 2.
Too small.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made them smaller,
and then
but I felt like they should have been the size of a sunflower, not even smaller, because they're really hard to hit.
Yeah, and then the Oak is the opposite. A little bit too
really
easy
to hit. Yeah.
Sure, it has a lot of health, but if there's no other Acorn teaming up with them, then yeah, it's kind of maybe a little too easy to take out. So I'd say with the new characters, most of them are done pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say actually the new characters were
especially after all the updates later on.
We're a positive add-on to the game. I think that most of them feel like they fit the Garden Warfare vibe,
the aesthetic, and
the aesthetic, the plants. They added some new stuff like that was not, they could have probably added some more stuff from the original PvZ 1 and 2 games because they had a lot of different zombies and plants there. But that would have had to go back to the variations, which they didn't want to go down. So I think the characters felt pretty good overall. Just this game was a slight miss, unfortunately, for me. But we've played a lot of it. Really enjoyed getting through it all. The PvP has probably been the most frustrating experience for us because it's not super laggy or bad necessarily, but it doesn't always play as you want, and there's not a lot of people playing. So the ones that generally are playing are quite good. So a lot of our fun's kind of come from PvE, where we get to work together and take on waves of bots. That all being said, I think that pretty much wraps up our final thoughts and feelings on this game.
Yep, again, just a game that's fun to play, but there's a lot of things that do kind of drag it down, and then you just feel like, is this game any better than Garden Warfare 2?
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. It feels like a game of missed opportunity where it just could have been a lot better, but it ended up being probably a feeling of meh, a little disappointment, and it just like, oh, what could it have been if they were not maybe a little less greedy with the microtransactions and if they'd smoothed it out? Because like I said, when we played the Switch version, that felt amazing, having all of these things taken out of the game.
Right.
But it's a little too late, and the Switch version didn't run as well as other games.
Yeah, it's not like with the release of that Switch version, they were going to fix all this sorts of stuff. But they didn't. They fixed it all when they were making the Switch version, sure, but nothing else was changed, really.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching, though. We really hope you've enjoyed this Let's Play. We've got a lot of episodes of this gameplay up there. Hopefully you've enjoyed all of it. We're maybe not... I don't want to call this game over and done. We've still been enjoying it. We might play here and there for fun. But we're kind of wrapping this up and moving on to some more games we've wanted to play. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. We'll see you all next time with a double GG. Till then, GG.
Bye.